So, after doing quite a bit of work in this garage recently, I've kind of had it on my heart to do a video about tools. I already sort of did one about safety and whatnot because of that thing coming up, but I sort of want to do something on tools because I use a lot of them and I use them in a really weird way sometimes. So, here's pretty much my thing on the tools I've got. First off, I'd like to get us start off on the hammers. So this is the first hammer that I really used when I made a serious attempt at blacksmithing. This is kind of what I used to sort of make a few of those steel rings that I made earlier. It works pretty well. It's decently heavy, you know. Wow, it feels really light now. But that is because I was able to attach a handle to this hammerhead. Now, mind you, by attach a handle, I don't mean attach a particularly good handle. This kind of is not so great. However, I saw a video from another guy that does blacksmithing, Alex Steele, in fact, and went out, picked up a Harbor Freight Tools hammer, sanded down a couple of the edges over here, made it nice and a little bit rounded, you know, nothing too special. Sometimes you'll see me sort of take a look at the hammer like that before I start hammering, and that's because I can tell which side is the rounder side by looking for this little mark right here. Kind of hard to see, I know, but yeah. Did the same thing with this cross-peen hammer. I even doled out the back a bit. Interesting note about this shiny part right here, that was completely a mistake. I was just sort of going at it, and then I realized I was starting to sand off this part right here, so I just sort of I was like, oh, well, might as well finish what I started. So, those are the hammers. Vice grips. Or, yeah, I guess these might be called vice grips. Not like, you know, bench vice or anything, but a little tiny thing. Yeah, this was actually found on the highway by my dad. They still work, though, so might as well use them. And, yeah, I use these because I don't really have a particularly good pair of tongs. In fact, these right here are my crucible tongs. The reason why they're not my blacksmithing tongs is because I did my best to make a pair of tongs. Except I did one thing completely wrong. These bits right here, they're supposed to be twisted. Got the little skinny parts on the sides. A few other issues with it, like the fact that it only extends about that much because it bumps up against the round part, which was another mistake I made when making these, but live and learn. The hinge right here came out perfectly, so I have no complaints there. But anyway, back to the vice grips. These seem to work pretty well, except they don't really like to lock onto stuff too well. So I am planning on making another pair of tongs. I just don't know when, and I don't know what I'm going to make them out of. So I'll keep you posted on that. Hopefully I'll make another video on that. Bench vise number 1. Bench vise number 2, which I use to hold the torch. Speaking of which, I use this fan over here to add a little oxygen to the mixture, get the forge a little bit hotter, so that I can actually do some pretty good stuff with it. Also saves me quite a bit in propane costs, so that makes me really happy. We've also got a really old drill press, but it works really well. I'm really glad that I have it because there have been a few holes that I've needed to drill that have needed to be pretty much straight up and down, and this thing has been great for that. Here's one vise that goes along with that. And the other vise that we use for it is somewhere around here. I also use a variety of saws, but I figured I'd just select this one because it looks the coolest out of all of them. I also have a toaster oven for tempering stuff and discoloring my rings. Seems to work pretty well. Also, I've got a toolbox full of tools, mainly files and hammers and such, but also just random stuff that I threw in here. So this is a trim router that I like to use. I like using it because this thing right here can just sort of drill pretty much like a regular drill into wood and such, but I can move it around, so it's not really bound to one spot. So I can actually make a precisely measured, as you can see there are measurements right there, a precisely measured groove or hole in some sort of material. I actually used it to do the casting mold for the bronze meltdown. Right, also, personal protective equipment. Good idea in every case. And last but not least, I've got a couple of brushes I really like. And also this anvil. And also this anvil, which is really cool. I actually just got it recently, and yeah, it's looking very beat up. It is not a very good anvil, but it's better than the bench vise that I was using before, so I will definitely take it. Almost forgot to add one thing. For those of you who have been noticing in the past few videos, I use a lot of Ryobi tools. I'm not sponsored by them, nor do I particularly recommend them. I just happen to have a lot of Ryobi tools, so I use them. Even the bench grinder is Ryobi, and it's not even painted green. Well, they're tools, they work, so might as well. But yeah, with that, I hope y'all have a great day.